YouTube and TikTok if you wanted to watch. You know, so you can get on one of them.
Yeah, okay.
Is it something that we would be able to watch again, or? Is it
Not
just
again.
live?
Yeah, it's just. But if you wanted to go on there and like screen record something.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do that? Okay. You want me to just record it?
The ones on YouTube stay on there.
They
I can
do?
watch it again, yeah.
Just go to your guys' to the.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Go sit in the truck if you're hot.
You want me to video?
So there's
No,
only,
you can't
it's only
come in
one slot.
here.
Oh, I
but
just-
yeah,
Yeah.
on there.
Okay.
Alright.
All right.
So Zoe is taking her nap here. Get her out of her bath. Hey, Zoe.
Seriously, I wanted to do this my whole
Alright. So if you want to have a seat in the blue chair, what I'll do is pass her over to you. And what we do is just pet Zoe nice and slow, just down her back like this. She gets sensitive with her sides being touched, so we try to avoid those areas. And if she leans back to show you her belly, it's a no-no area. She does not like it at all. So it's really tempting, especially if she leans back like that. But I'll twist her around and she'll grab a hold of your torso if she's already ready. Then you'll just support underneath her booty. Go. Get some snacks and stuff out too, just in case she's hungry.
Oh, you know, is that the magic bar?
She goes a few hours in between her morning encounters and her afternoon encounters, and she gets hungry in between them.
Oh, she's like, give me some more. Give me some more. So good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Zoe is 16 months old,
Oh my gosh.
so she is still a baby.
Are you still a baby?
They don't mature until they're about 2 years old.
Will she get bigger?
She's pretty much plateaued off. She may get just a little bit bigger, but if she does, it won't be a whole lot.
Are you still a baby girl?
Zoe's a two-toed sloth, although now we're moving more so to saying two-fingered sloths because they all have 3 toes on their back feet, but it's the front feet where they differ in the amount of toes they have, so it makes more sense to say two-fingered. Because for us, we've got fingers and toes, but for them, it's pretty much all just toes.
You got some toes? You got some toes? Oh, that's so good. Hmm? That's so good. Oh, hi. What are you doing? Oh, I don't want to touch your
Now with your right hand, just, be careful about getting close to her sides, just
Oh.
because if she starts to notice it, she's not very happy about it. If she's eating and she's distracted, sometimes she doesn't realize it.
I don't want to get any spots you don't want. No.
And that's the same thought that we had when we first got her and she first started showing signs that she didn't like her sides to be messed with, or her hands to be touched, or her belly to be touched. We just went completely hands off in those areas. And so because of that, she has learned that she can, not like it when people touch her there.
Oh.
And we have to respect that.
Oh, yeah.
And so with Dash, our smaller
Where are you
baby.
going?
See, it's so hard to resist the belly.
It's so hard because you like
Uh-huh.
used to with other animals and
Mhm.
stuff. But oh, are you trying? Are you trying?
Goodness.
Is that so good? You're just a gentle little eater. Is that good?
So they do have really poor eyesight, which is why when we do feed them We just give them the end of the veggie and then take our finger away because she can't tell the difference between where that veggie ends and where my finger starts. So if I were to stick my finger down in there, she would continue to chomp. And they do have pretty sharp teeth. They have 4 really big canines, and their molars aren't like ours. They aren't flat. They're actually all pointed, so that when they do close their mouth, they like grind their back teeth together when it grinds up their food, whereas we kind of smash our food up.
Where'd it go? Where'd it go?
Working on
Say,
it, girl.
Mom.
Here.
Mom.
There we go.
Yeah.
Let's set this bowl here, and if you want to feed her,
Yeah.
go ahead and get you some.
Hi. Oh my gosh. Are you looking for it? No, it's over here, huh? Why not put it in there? Oh my gosh, I could love on you all day long.
Where are you from?
I just moved up here to Tennessee to, get a while. We moved from Florida.
Oh, okay. How long have you been here?
It's been about 2 years. And then I moved my parents up here. My mom's disabled, and
Oh, okay.
I missed them terribly, so
Yeah.
we moved them in with us and we're
Good.
moving.
Yeah.
And then Rodney was like one of my best friends in high school,
Mhm.
and so we hadn't seen each other in like 37 years.
Mhm.
And his mom lives up here, so when
Yeah.
he decided to come up here, I said, well, let's go do some fun stuff.
Where'd you hear about us?
Just looking out for things to do.
Yeah.
I want to come back and do everything. It was so hard to pick.
Yeah.
I mean, this was definitely it. I don't want, is that okay?
Food.
I don't want it to be on your belly or your side.
Sometimes she does it to herself too. She'll be twisting around and she'll start to rub her own side up against somebody and she's like, hey, don't touch me there. It's like, you are literally the one that did that. I keep her belly full. But something kind of cool about sloths is that their digestive tract takes 30 days from start to finish to digest everything that's in it. And so because of that, sloths kind of have like a little internal off switch that they can just flip as soon as they get full. They will completely stop eating until their system tells them to start eating again. And that's because if they were to continue to eat, even after their system was full, it would back up pretty quickly. So,
What are you doing?
she's gonna
That's
start
crazy, 30 days. Is that just because they're kind of just slow?
Yeah, everything is slow about a sloth. You know, already the diet that they have is already extremely low in caloric content, and it takes calories to create energy and make ATP, which is the source that our bodies use to put in work and do things like moving and breathing and digesting food. So if a sloth is not eating or sleeping, they're just hanging there digesting their food. They don't have enough energy storage to be able to just be climbing through the branches, looking around, exploring, and things like that. So scientists used to think that sloths slept upwards to like 20 hours a day. But in reality, when they started doing a little bit closer research, they realized that a lot of the times that they thought the sloths were sleeping, they were actually just hanging there, not doing anything, not moving, with their eyes open. That's because, you know, they don't have enough energy to be able to just be moving around and doing weird things, exploring the trees. So,
Hi. It is very hard to not just love on your belly.
and her chin too, for me, it's a big temptation to like scratch underneath her chin, but she doesn't like that either.
It's so cute. It's so little.
And it's really easy to startle a sloth too, so especially if you touch up around their neck or something and they're not expecting it, they can jump pretty hard. Just because, you know, already sloth's vision is absolutely terrible. So they have a condition that's called rod monochromacy. That means that they only have rod cells in their eyes and no cone cells. So we have cone cells in the back of our eyes that allow us to see color, but since they lack those cells, they are colorblind. Not only that, but what they do see is not just black and white. It's almost like if you've ever watched a movie, an action movie that has like night goggle vision and a scene of it, where it's just like kind of green everywhere and it's not really, you know, people. It's just like blobs or shapes moving around. That's about all they see. So they can't distinguish the difference between me or you by looking at us. But she can hear the difference, so she knows that I'm right here, and she knows that I'm the one that's feeding her because of my voice. So she's learned what I sound like, she's learned what I smell like, she's learned the way that I hold her compared to how other people hold her. So she can, decipher who I am and who other people are that she knows just by hearing them and little things like that. So since their vision is so horrible, their sense of smell and hearing is really good.
Yeah, I read that about like no, lotions and stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. Because that for them is more
Like
intense.
more,
than-
yeah.
Mhm. And especially noises too, like if I was to drop this bowl or something, or be a loud sudden noise, for them it's a lot louder than it is for us, so they can jump pretty hard because of that. And they can make like a little hiss noise if they're startled or scared, and I can attest to that because sometimes we'll have encounters with Zoe, and Flash's enclosure is just behind this door. And sometimes he'll come down, he'll want to hang out on this branch that's above us here. So he was down here hanging out one time, and I went to bend down and was putting Zoe in somebody's lap. And then when I went to stand back up, Flash had extended all the way down and was just hanging by his back feet, so I bumped into him, and I heard in my ear a little.
Is that the only noise they make?
So they can make a few other noises. The females, when they go into heat, they let out a really loud screech. That alerts all the males in the area that she is ready to be bred, and they'll all slowly make their way over. It kind of sounds like a D sharp if you're into music, so it's really high pitched. And so they do that, and then they can also make the younger ones, well, Zoe still does it, she's 16 months, but if you go to put them back down, this is what they enjoy doing. They enjoy spending time with people, they enjoy interacting with people, and if you go to put them back down after an encounter like this, they don't want to be put back down, they want to stay holding on to somebody. And so if I stand in her room for much longer after I set her down, she'll start climbing through the trees and she'll be going, oh.
Oh,
Just watch your hand there from being on her side.
I'm sorry, I don't want that. Do you want me to move it?
I have nothing more for you, girl. So if you put both of your hands underneath her booty and scooch her up a little bit higher on you, sometimes what she'll do is she'll take both your arms and cuddle up around you, around your neck. There we
Oh
go.
my gosh. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
You got little pieces of food on your nose, girl.
Oh my gosh, how do you not just do this all day long?
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing too about our sloth encounters is that we are very guarded at the time that we get to spend with our sloths and that we allow other people to spend with our sloths because, she obviously enjoys this interaction. She was already looking for me when I went in there. She does not want to be put back down when we go to put her back because she was conditioned from a young age to enjoy this type of interaction. But too much of any good thing can be bad. So if we were to book her back to back to back to back for hours in a day, it would get to be kind of a chore for her, and she wouldn't be looking forward to it anymore. So we don't book for any of our sloths longer than 2 hours a day total, and that's not back to back. That's the longest that she can encounter for is an hour at a time. So somebody has her for 30 minutes, and then somebody else gets her for 30 minutes, and then she's done for that until the afternoon. So she can do that first thing in the morning from 10:30 to 11, and then she's done until 2 o'clock, and then she can have another hour encounter. But today she had one 30-minute encounter this morning, and then another 30-minute encounter now, and she'll be done. So we keep it that way,
So that it's still.
yeah, they're always looking forward to it when we go in there, and they're not like, oh, there's somebody else here that wants to hold me. So, we got both Zoe and Dash from a breeder that's been doing it for over 30 years. He's actually a veterinarian. And how he started his breeding program, he was down in Honduras or Guatemala, somewhere that they're native to, and they were doing a rehabilitation program. So the sloths that were injured, like they had, climbed onto, a lot of the injuries that they sustained is from electrical poles. So if they are climbing onto one telephone pole, it's fine, but as soon as they reach over and they're trying to grab another one, that's when they get shocked. So they're trying to rehabilitate those down there, and the ones that could not be rehabilitated started to go into his breeding program. Yep, no, don't let her nibble on you.
I'm sorry. I'm not food, but I love that.
I mean, it feels just like a little tickle at first, but then if she
This
gets
is
in
gonna
there,
get in there.
if she gets in there far enough, she does have 4 pretty sharp canines, so.
You itching? Just such a dream come true, baby girl.
That's what started his breeding program, was injured sloths from the wild that could not be returned back to the wild. So these sloths since then have been generations upon generations upon generations bred in captivity and further removed from the rainforest than we are from the Pilgrims first coming over. So it's been several generations that they've been, bred for this to become ambassador animals. He has a program that he raises ambassador sloths, and then he has a separate program where he'll raise sloths that are, is used to human touch, and those would go to like zoos and places like that. But both Zoe and Dash did pass that final ambassador test, which does prove that they do genuinely enjoy being held by people. So
And then what's in?
Flash, yeah, Flash. He's 7 years old. We've had him for about 3 years. And when we first got him, he just came from an organization that was basically like a zoo, where he was just observation beforehand. And we don't know where he was bred, but he definitely was not bred in to be an ambassador animal. So when we got him, he was not used to being touched, not used to being handled, anything like that. So it really took John, like the first 2 years of having him, just being in there, talking to him, spending time with him, getting him used to his voice, getting him used to being in there with him, before he would even consider coming down. He could start looking around, girl, and eating out of our hands. But now he's to the point where he will come down in the mornings first thing, and he'll hook through the door frame there, and he'll climb onto this branch out here, and he'll have his breakfast. That's the encounter that we do with him.
What are you doing? Hi. Hi, honey. Where are you going?
She does explore a lot like a 2-year-old.
Say, well, I almost am. I almost am. Oh. Oh my God.
She's a sweet girl. That's always been her favorite place, has been up around somebody's neck. And it's funny to see the differences within their personalities and things, because while Dash was raised from the same facility, he was born and raised there, he much prefers to be down around your belly. If you try to scoot him up and get him up close to your neck, he's like, nope, and he'll work his way back down. He wants his back feet here, his front feet here. He does not want to be up high. He says, I want to be able to see your face. They do all kind of make their own little quirks and favorite foods that they like, and different, areas that they like to rest and things like that. So they're all very unique individuals that kind of develop their own personalities.
You are just precious. You are so precious.
But if you were to actually look at a sloth's hair underneath a microscope, you can see a lot of tiny little micro cracks all throughout each individual hair, and that's what allows them in the rainforest to be able to develop moss and algae and everything like that that grows on their back. And they do have an entire ecosystem that lives on their back in the wild. They rely on that ecosystem for camouflage. From the rainforest floor looking up, they're basically invisible. They just blend right into everything else because of the green backs that they have. But here, obviously, they're not rained on all the time like they are in the rainforest, so they don't have the chance to develop any of that. Not only that, but they have a specific type of moth that lives in the sloth's hair. And there's a big, long scientific name for it, but for short, we just call it the sloth moth, because that's the only place that they live in the whole world. And they're native to the rainforest, they can't live here. But they have a symbiotic relationship with the sloths, meaning that both parties benefit. So the sloths could not live without the moths, and the moths could not live without the sloths in the rainforest. And so once a week, when the sloth comes down to use the bathroom, because they do only go once a week, they come down to the base of the tree and they do a little potty dance on the ground while they go to the bathroom, and they go back up. And they use the same tree, same side of the tree, to the same pile that they always do, not because they're creatures of habit, but because of that sloth-moth symbiotic relationship. So they come down to the same pile as always, because the moths will climb down off of the sloth and lay their eggs in the dung pile of the sloth, and then a week later those eggs have turned into larvae. A week later those larvae have now turned into adult moths. And each time the sloth comes down, the cycle is just repeated. More moths lay eggs turn into larvae, more larvae turn into moths that climb back up. So, and that's important because if they didn't do that, then the moth population on the back of the sloth would deteriorate. And so it obviously benefits the moth because it goes to and from the bottom of the rainforest to their breeding ground. And then the moss and algae that grows on the back of the sloth is what the moth eats. So obviously it benefits the moth, but it also benefits the sloths. So when they groom themselves, they lick up a portion of those moths that live on their back, and that's their protein source in the wild. So they do eat a small variety of bugs and insects that are on the leaves and on them, and that's their protein source. But the most important part of the entire relationship is that they'll lick up a portion of the moth's waste that's on their fur, and that's where the sloth gets the bacteria to be able to digest its food. So they use a bacterial process, unlike us, we use an enzymatic process, and we always have those enzymes inside of our gut. But they have the ability to lose that bacteria. So bacteria is really specific to the type of temperature that they have or that they can thrive in. And so if the sloth's body temperature was to drop, the bacteria would begin to deteriorate. And since sloths can regulate their own body temperature, they rely on the outside temperature to keep their own body temperature stable. So in the wild, in the rainforest, that temperature can fluctuate, sometimes drop a little bit low. But it's not an issue for the sloth there because once they groom themselves, they get more bacteria, and that bacteria will digest their food. So it's not ever an issue for them there. But somewhere like this, since we don't have the moths, if the temperature of their enclosures were to drop, their body temperature would as well. And it's not that we worry about hypothermia for them, it's that we worry about that bacteria beginning to die off. And if it does, we don't have a way to get that bacteria back up. Yeah. So no, those moths can't live in an environment like this. And so they rely on that the bacteria that they get from the mother on day 3. On day 3 of the sloth's life, the baby will climb onto the mother's chest and lick her in the corners of her mouth. And when she eats, her food mixes with her saliva and kind of bubbles up in the corners of her mouth. The bacteria that she has in her gut is also in her saliva. So when the baby licks that up, it gets just a little bit of mom's bacteria colony to start to develop its own bacteria colony. So that bacteria from mom will start to germinate and colonate until they've made their own ecosystem or bacteria colony that then they can keep the rest of their life. So not only because of that, but a lot of other really specific reasons that it's a terrible idea to own a sloth as a pet. You know, a lot of people see just a few minutes of our lives and are like, oh my gosh, I want to have a sloth as a pet. And we always tell people that these guys are not our pets. They are ambassador animals that we use to serve to be education for the public of how sensitive these guys are, and that owning a sloth is not ever a good idea. There's no reputable breeder in the United States that would sell one of their baby sloths to a member of the general public. So we already had Flash, but when we first started being interested in getting Zoe from that breeder that's been doing it for over 30 years, we went through rigorous questioning. He wanted to know what our knowledge was, what that's not food, don't do that. She's like, where's the food? But he wanted to know what our knowledge was and if we were going to be able to take care of, the sloths. So.
Oh, what is that?
You little diva. She's like, if I nibble on somebody's arm, I'm not going to get food.
What is that?
Born April 2. Prince Ali, born February
My
3.
time is up, unfortunately, so I'll take her from you. And I'll talk to Donna about why she was wanting to move the time and see. We don't have any other encounters this afternoon that late, so we should be able to do that no problem, but I'll ask her about that. All right, girl.
Whenever, because we're
Yeah.
kind of far
I
out.
think we've got one right after you for Zoe, and then I should be done for the rest of the day at that point, so around 3, we should be able to do it at that point if there's nothing else, so. Hey girl, you gotta turn this way. You're all
You know, how
twisted.
do we do this?
You don't do anything, she will just eventually grab a hold of me and figure out what's going on. She's just in a really weird position right now, so I'm gonna have to come over here. Hey girl, look here. Come on, Zoe. Come on now. Come on. Come on. Come on, Zoe. You're being difficult. You're in a really weird position here.
Oh, we can get some food.
Look here. She says, oh, just stretch
Oh, I
this.
gotta stretch. I gotta stretch.
Not Zozo.
This way. Hey,
Come on, girl.
you can go to bed. Come on. This way. Come on. Come on. There we go.
So you're all set? We'll get up here and sanitize our hands one more time before we go do anything else. So I think, pretty sure we have one with Zoe right after this.
Yeah.
So do you have any other encounters for today?
Hey guys, we're going to be doing some more encounters here in just a minute, but we're doing a little bit of switching right now, so didn't want to leave you hanging. So we're just getting ready to start doing spider monkey encounters too with Georgie. So if you've ever wanted to hang out with a spider monkey, you can do that now here at the farm. And then tomorrow, I believe, is Wednesdays. That's our hump day. So if you wanted a great way to come out and experience the farm, go to our website, click on events, and then you will see hump day. So basically it just gets you a way to get out to the farm at kind of like a really good discounted rate. But check out, I think the encounter is called Monkeying Around. So if you've ever wanted to hold a spider monkey or hang out with one, you can do that now here at Ocoee Riverside Farm. Just go to our website at OcoeeRiversideFarm.com, click on Monkeying Around. Michaela's gonna come back in just a minute and we're gonna hang out with either Dash or Zoe. Thanks for watching, guys. You can come on and I'll get the door.
Okay. Alright, whoever wants to hold Zoe first can have a seat in the blue chair. So what we do when we hold Zoe is we just do nice, real slow pets like this, just down her back, and with the other hand you support underneath her booty. And then kind of a no-no area for her is for her sides and her stomach. Sometimes she'll kind of like lean back and show you her belly, but she does not want you to touch her belly at all. So as long as we just support her underneath her booty, stay away from her sides, and she'll be good. You may still be a little bit hungry. She was kind of snacking earlier, so she'll wrap her legs around her torso and support underneath her booty. Let's see, are you still starving like Marvin? Hmm? Just as always. Zoe is 16 months old. She is still a baby. We've pretty much plateaued off on weight. She's about 12.5 pounds right now.
So do they not get much bigger than this?
Not really. The two-toed sloths, they can max out around 15 pounds, maybe a little bit more sometimes, but pretty much plateau off after that. The three-toed sloths are the ones that stay a little bit smaller. They only get to be up to about 10 to 12 pounds.
Oh, okay.
But it's pretty difficult to keep a three-toed sloth in captivity because their diets are really specific to what they can and can't eat.
Yeah.
They can really only have the leaves of the sarcopia trees, which are what naturally grow in the rainforest. And can't really,
Excellent.
and can't really vary much from that. So, but here obviously we can feed them a variety of different vegetables like zucchini and squash, sweet potatoes, things like that.
Yeah.
Whereas in the rainforest they wouldn't have access to anything like that.
Yeah.
But once they're raised on something like this, then it's a lot easier for them to transition over. So I'll give you this little bowl of food if you want to kind of feed her.
Okay.
We just let her get a hold of the very end of it, and then just let it go and she'll take in the rest of it. Just keep in mind that their eyesight is really poor, so she can't tell the difference between where your veggie ends and where your finger starts.
Yeah.
She's been pretty hungry today, but any minute she could just stop eating, and that's because they kind of have a little internal off switch that they can just flip whenever they need to. So it already takes a sloth's digestive tract 30 days to digest everything that's in it from start to finish. And so because it takes so long to digest everything in it, if they were to continue to eat even after their system was full, it would get backed up pretty quickly. So they really need that ability to just be able to switch that off, which I think it'd be pretty cool if I had that ability, because I could eat a full course meal and still feel like I want some
Yeah.
ice cream afterwards. They don't have that issue. You just lay it all the way back, girl. It's so hard to resist that belly when she lays out like that, but she cannot stand it. She's been that way since the moment that we got her. So we got her around 4 months old, and she stayed up at the main house for about the first year of her life. So she was up there for a while, and she was our first baby sloth. And so with any first baby, anything that you have, you want to make sure you do everything just right.
Yeah.
And so with her, when she first started showing signs that she didn't like her sides to be touched or her belly to be touched, we just went hands off in those areas. And so because of that, she's kind of grown up knowing that those are no-no areas for her, and everybody has to obey that rule.
Yeah.
And so she's still really sensitive about that. But with our baby Dash, we're trying a lot harder with him to kind of acclimate him while he's eating and he's happy and content. We got, transition from petting him on his back to kind of slowly touching his sides and making sure we can touch his paw pads and things like that. We don't really go too much on the belly just because that should be a no-no area for any sloth. The only time anything ever touches a sloth's belly is if they have a baby. These guys have never had babies, and they probably never will. We don't have any plans to breed the sloths that we have here in the future. For right now, it takes a lot of work, energy, research, effort, everything to keep a sloth, and to add a baby to that equation would be a lot more work.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of other animals here that we take care of, and so it'd be having to have like a full-time specialist here.
Yeah. How long do they live for?
So in captivity, a sloth can live to be up to 50 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the oldest sloth that we know of was named Jan. He lived in a zoo in Germany and just passed away in August, and he was 54 when he passed.
Wow.
And then his roommate, she lived to be 50. She passed just a few years before he did. In the wild, we expect it to be about half of that. There's not been any scientist that has been able to track one single sloth from birth until natural geriatrics. They're pretty difficult to track. Their necks, they don't really have like a skinny neck and then a bigger head like we do. It's all just kind of the same circumference, so it's kind of hard to keep tracking collars on them in the wild.
Really weird looking hands.
Yeah.
I never realized that they looked like that.
A lot of people wonder how they're able to hold on to a branch for so long and spend their entire lives pretty much upside down, holding on like that, and still sleep and everything. And that's because for them, they have a specific locking mechanism that are in their claws. So for us, if we were to try to hold on to a branch for any amount of time, it would be pretty difficult because we're using energy, using muscles and tendons to clamp down like that. But for them, clamp down is their relaxed state. So they're not expending any energy or effort or using muscles to do that. It's just natural for them because all of the muscles and tendons and ligaments that are in their forearms are so tight that snap down is just relaxed. So for them to actually have to let go and reach like she is right now, that's what's hard, that's what's taking muscles and energy to do that.
Okay.
So that's why it's so easy for
Yeah.
a sloth just to, sleep and eat and hang out and do everything upside down. And if a sloth were to pass away holding on to a branch, they would continue to hang there until something either knocked them out of the tree or something rotted. They would continue to hang there the whole time.
Do you want to turn up feeding her, or do you want to just continue holding? Just hold.
It's just been about 10 minutes. We have 30 minutes with her, so we can switch over about halfway through if you guys want to.
Okay.
And I can get more snacks out too. She's
Yeah.
hungry.
I mean, I'd like to hold her for a little bit, but I don't have to be half of the time. We're mostly here because they want to be here,
Okay.
so.
Sounds good. So I did mention that sloths, their eyesight's really poor. They actually have a condition that's called rod monochromacy. That means that they only have rod cells in their eyes and no cone cells. So we have cone cells in the back of our eyes that allows us to see color. But since they lack those specific cells, they are colorblind. Not only that, it's not just that they see in black and white, but it's basically like if you've ever seen an action movie that shows like a night goggle vision. where everything's just kind of shapes and blurs. You can't really distinguish what's what. You just know something's moving. That's kind of what they see. So she can't distinguish the difference between me or any one of you guys, but she can hear the difference. So since their eyesight is so poor, their hearing and their sense of smell is enhanced. So she hears my voice. She knows who I am because I talk to her every day. I spend time with her every day. So she knows I'm in here just because I'm talking. But if I weren't to say anything, she wouldn't know I was in here. They also have a really narrow field of vision as well. You can see how dilated her pupils are.
Yeah,
They stay
they're
like
really
that.
small.
Yeah, they stay like that all the time in dark and light areas. So for them, it's like basically if you were to cut both your hands together and look through it like a telescope, that's about all they see.
That's all there is. That's it.
She says, "Are you sure?" She's probably gonna start messing with that cup holder. For whatever reason, she's obsessed with that mesh cup holder. I think somebody spilled like a Coke or something in there at some point. She just licks all over it sometimes. She does explore a lot like a toddler. She has to explore everything with her mouth.
Yeah, she's doing that right now.
You can see that she's got 4 pretty large canines in there, and then her molars are not like ours. They're not flat. They're actually all pointed. And so they work every time she closes her mouth. Those molars grind together. That's what works to grind up her food so that she doesn't chomp like we do.
We holding hands. Oh, no, don't have that. And we'll be you grabbing my shoelaces.
So if you wanted to kind of get a cuddle in with her, if you bring her back up to your chest and then put both your hands underneath her booty and scoot her up a little bit higher, yeah, she'll snuggle in around your neck like that. She says, "I'm still hungry." She has me trained where she knows that she starts going for people's arms like that and starts exploring on people's arms, that I usually break out more food, but I'm trying to get her to not do that anymore because it's like, I can't be an endless supply of food for you, honey. But sloths do eat about 10% of their body weight every day. And we kind of talked about how they can't really have their system back up like that, or it'd be pretty hard for them to digest everything.
Yeah.
And plus sloths only go to the bathroom about once every 7 to 10 days. And they don't use it in the tops of the tree. They come down to the base of the tree to do so. And that's where they're most exposed, so they can't really afford to be doing that every day.
Yeah.
They build it up all week long, so that when they do go to the bathroom, they expel about 1/3 of their entire body weight. It's not just solids, it's liquids as well, so they wait to go number 1 and 2 until they're down to the base of the tree.
Wow.
And they do go to the same pile every single time. So they use the same tree, they go down to the same side of the tree, and they use the same pile that they always do. And that's not because they're creatures of habit, but it's because in the wild they have a relationship with moths that live on their back. It's a symbiotic relationship. And that moth population requires the sloth to go to the same pile every time because that's where they repopulate. So they lay their eggs in the dung pile of the sloth. And if the sloth went to a different spot every time, then those eggs would not be able to, they would develop, they would turn into moths, but they wouldn't have a place to crawl back up onto the sloth. So they go to the same spot every time so that that moth colony can be repopulated. Do you have the hiccups? Or are you sneezing? If you want to, I could do some this type of interaction. If you were to take a wild sloth from the rainforest and try to interact with it in a similar way, it would go completely different for you. It would be essentially the difference between holding a house cat and a feral cat. You're probably going to walk away looking pretty different afterwards.
Yeah.
So, yeah, their bites can inflict some damage if they wanted to, but these sloths here are very used to this type of interaction, and they love this type of interaction.
Yeah.
So when I go to put her back here in just a few minutes, when I put her back in her hammock, if I stand in her room for much longer after I set her down, she starts to actually climb back through the branches at me, trying to get me to pick her back up. And she'll be going, oof, oof. trying to get me to get her again.
Never thought about what sound they made.
Yeah, they can make a little whimpering noise like that. I don't think I have ever seen her have the hiccups before. This is hilarious. They do make little whimpering noises, and the females, when they go into heat, they let out a really loud screech that alerts all of the males in the area that she's ready to be bred. And all the males will slowly make their way over there, and it'll be the first male that makes it there will be the lucky winner. Everybody else that shows up late to the party just turns around and goes back where they came from. The males don't fight for their mates like a lot of other animals do. Pretty peaceful, solitary animals, for the most part. That's hilarious.
Oh, I don't have anything.
She knows
It was bringing me food earlier.
You can see on the top of her head where she's a little bit more of a darker brown color.
Yeah.
That's what color they are when they're first born. They're a lot darker, and they stay like that until they're like 6 or 7 months old, and they start to get a little bit lighter. But they're only with the mothers for about 3 or 4 months before they're completely weaned, so it's not a very long time that they spend with the mothers.
Yeah.
That's for the two-toed sloths. Now, the three-toed sloths, they stay with the moms for just a little bit longer. But for a sloth that already doesn't have a whole lot of energy storage built up, it's pretty energy expensive to have a baby holding on to you and, having to produce milk and keep them for as long. But do you guys want to trade out? Sure. So I'll get her from you and then I'll transfer her over to you.
Hi, Zozo.
Yeah.
Pictures in case you get any.
Okay.
Girl.
Hi, Zozo. Come on up. Come on.
There we go. Same thing, as long as you just support her underneath her booty and do not slow pets like this. And if she's down lower, you got a longer torso. If she's down lower in your lap, she's gonna kind of curl up into a ball like that. But if you lift her up higher, she'll be up around your neck, kind of like how she was for a minute.
Okay.
Break out some more snacks for you, so you're not gonna start eating arms. This way.
She was trying to do that.
Go.
Hi.
Those are good pictures when she's up around your neck like that.
You may know it's nice. Oh,
She said lick.
Hello. Hi. Are their feet like the same as their hands? I didn't really get a good look at them.
So all sloths have 3 toes on their back feet, and it's the front feet where they differ in the amount of toes. And they look pretty similar. They just got 1 extra claw on their back feet.
Okay.
When you feed her, just let her get the end of it, and you let go of it, and she can take the rest.
Some more.
She balls up like that. That's her sleeping position. So they're actually part of the superorder called Zathorans. That means a hinged spine. So the armadillos, anteaters, and sloths are all part of that superorder, and those are the only mammals that have the capability to curl their spine all the way where they can put their head in between their legs. So she does that a lot when she's sleeping in her hammock. She just curls all the way up, and she just looks like a big ball. And they do that in the tops of the trees as well. So if you take a tour, like where you go out in Honduras or Guatemala, somewhere they're native, you go out through the rainforest and you look for this, it just looks like little hanging coconuts that are up there.
Yeah.
one down. This is Armageddon. So you guys are lodging here, right?
Yes.
Staying in the cabin?
Mhm.
Yeah. Where'd you guys hear about us?
I honestly don't know. Did you find it? Yeah, 'cause I know you were looking into places where you could have sloth interaction. I don't remember, but yeah. The main reason we came here was for the
Yeah.
sloth experience. You don't want any more? Hello.
Might be full now.
Where are you going?
Since I'm exploring the world. Sometimes I try to have, when people hold her, sit over here, because if they sit over there, close to what's behind you, she tries to hook onto that and tries to pull herself up to climb up the wall where there's literally nowhere else to go up there.
Yeah.
She is quite exploratory in new surroundings. Not saying new, like she's never out here. This is always where she does her encounters, but.
How young did she start doing these?
So we got her when she was about 4 months old. She went through a 30-day quarantine, then we slowly started introducing her to having encounters with people that she wasn't as familiar
Guys, we're gonna go outside here because the storm's coming in and it looks pretty cool. Give me 1 second. This here is Rough, and he's chilling here outside. He's our main guy. He gets to be the dad out here. We got some ladies hanging out over here. They're a little bit smarter. And they're just hanging out, enjoying a little bit of clouds rolling in. Guys, if you're just joining us, we're live here at Coe Riverside Farm. All of our kangaroos here are red kangaroos. It's the red coloring they get from when their hormones are kind of amped up. So that's the reason that the males are so brightly colored red, but all the females are typically kind of that gray-blue. And you'll find a lot of times the back of the females kind of start to get that red coloring when they're mating. And there is one in the pouch. I think she's sticking her head out. She might come out right now. There she is. So she has a baby in the pouch and maybe she'll come out. If the storms hold off, we'll hang out here for a while. you see it down there? That's the baby. See the baby sticking the head out? How hilarious is that? I think that's pretty awesome. Then we got one sticking the head out of the pouch. Let's go see if we can hang out with zebras and the camel for a little bit. So we have 30 acres here at Coe Riverside Farm. And you can look and see the covered wagons right there. So when you're in those covered wagons, you can just unzip the back of it and look out and see any of these awesome animals. So we have zebras, camels, llamas, alpacas, whole bunch of awesome stuff. Yep, we have a sloth. We actually have 3 sloths. Hey Carson, we're located in Benton, Tennessee, halfway between Chattanooga and Knoxville. All right, guys, we're gonna head back over here and check on Ruff again. Hey, Ruff. Hey guys, this is Ruff. He's just one of the kangaroos here at Kelly Riverside Farm. You gotta come out here and see him. He's awesome. We're located in Benton, Tennessee, halfway between Chattanooga and Knoxville. There's over 150 animals. It's raining right now, but it's beautiful. Right, buddy? Hey Carson, we are in Benton, Tennessee, halfway between Chattanooga and Knoxville. Ruff over here is enjoying a little snack and hanging out. We'll see how long the cameras keep going with the screens getting wet. What do you think, Ruff? All right, guys, it's coming down pretty good. I think we're, oh, he's out. All right, guys.